But yeah, like, I mean, at Solak, when you get the bombs falling down on you, you usually spec, switch to Blood Barrage, and you can sit there and soul split the whole time and just keep up your health. Now you have to prayer flick a little bit more, maybe eat a little bit of food. It's really not that big of a difference. The big one is at AOD. First off, P1 is usually, if everyone's doing the same pre-rotation setup, it should only take about 5 GCDs for you to skip the phase. Now it's taking like 6 to 7. Again, it's not a big deal. It's a couple extra abilities, not even. But the bigger issue is once all the minions spawn, before you just get them all under AOD, switch to Blood Barrage, and just let all your crits just keep going and going and going. And, you know, they're critting on all these mini bosses, or all the minions, and it just keeps going. It's crazy.
because if you're casting one of the barrages, it could activate multiple times, right? And it was just a recursive thing they took away in the first week.
The whole time too. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But again, kind of got sick of it after a little bit.
And I think that's the thing that people are upset about. And, you know, folks, let's be honest about this. Correct us if we're wrong. Tell us if we're in the wrong wheelhouse on this. We like to know. It's that dopamine hit of seeing all of those things get hit, get iced, get blood barraged, and then you heal yourself up. And then you also, with that, just see these huge amounts of damage coming in, and then it hits again with the crit just once on that. And I'm betting it's that loss of that AoE is what is bothering people who say this is a fairly substantial nerf and it's not as strong as it was. The people who see it from that perspective.
Yes, I would think so too. So I've been doing a lot of 5-man AOD, and what we just kind of did, instead of having 5 people using mage, we just switched to 1 person using range. They throw on chins, and it was about the same. It really wasn't that big of a difference. So we were able to adjust it. Like I think I mentioned before our show, like we're getting about 10 seconds slower kills, which is less than we were expecting. So we're pretty thrilled about it.
Yeah, and then I'd imagine once you slip into the new rotations and whatnot, you'll get that down refined even more. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're just looking at you know, you're mentioning AOD, and granted there are no official high scores for that one, but you could start to see where that becomes an issue if you are score pushing for that. And once again, that's something I think that needs to be considered as a retroactive add for a bunch of the PVM bosses is you know, score pushing like we have for Zamorak in some way or another. But I'd imagine it's just a question of resources for getting something like that in, and then with that you get that measurement that people like in terms of, you know, are we able to consistently hit these times, so on and so forth. So I was also going to ask you with this, do you have any ideas about what you were at before for DPM and where you're at now in terms of, you know, just DPM numbers on this?
Sadly, I don't. I don't have rune metrics, but I mean, just my sort of idea of how much it changed was, so in the 5-man AOD, you need each do 180,000 damage.
Right.
And that would take about 5 global cooldowns. Now it's about 6 or 7.
Okay.
So like it's really not too big of a difference.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, the global cooldown is 1.8 seconds or 3 ticks, right? Yep. Okay. So you said it would take an additional 2 global cooldowns then.
Yep.
So then with that, you're looking at an additional 3.6 seconds based on those rotations that we were looking at with this then. And when you factor that in terms of the grand scale of DPM, we're probably not looking at too many changes from that perspective, which I think makes sense from a balancing a numbers point of view. And then from there, you get back to the point, well, it's a question of how it feels, and in particular, the dopamine hits of the raw AoE and whatnot.